Assalamu alaikum, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's me, that girl named Maryam, and today we're going to be covering a topic that's very near and dear to my heart: how to rebuild yourself after you've experienced loss, tragedy, or trauma. So I'm going to be going over 10 tips and tricks to help you get back on your feet. So without further ado, let's get into it. So our first runner-up is going to be practicing patience, having sabr. So always remember to remain patient as you're going through that process of healing, right? And always have faith that Allah has a purpose for every trial that you go through. Something that always helps me go through this and just really ground myself and bring me back into having patience, because we're human, you know, we're gonna be impatient. We want things to happen now, and that's not how it works. Allah's timing is always perfect. So something that always helps me is reading Surah 29, the spider, ayats 1 through 10, and I'll read just a few of them for you just so that you can understand what I am speaking about. But again, practicing patience is something that we all have to work on. You know, we're human. At the end of the day, we want things now. And here we go. So Surah 29, and in Arabic it's called Al-Ankabut. Don't judge my Arabic. Alif Lam Mim. Do people think that they will be left alone, saying, "We believe," and that they will not be tested? We did test those who have gone before them. Allah has to see, for the purpose of reward and punishment, who are the truthful and who are the liars. So, if you can, pick up the Quran, read chapter 29, aka Surah 29, the spider, and you can read ayats 1 through 10, or you can read the whole ayat, or just read the whole Quran, which is way better for you anyway. So, moving on to tip number 2. Seeking guidance. You can do this in many ways. You can seek knowledge from the Quran, like we just did. You can seek knowledge from scholars, from mentors, even here on YouTube. Look up Islamic lectures that are pertaining to things that are on your mind. And I promise you, you will be so much better because of it. Just like the famous saying goes, where there's a will, there's a way. Meaning, if you seek the guidance, you will find it. And as the other saying goes, when you walk towards Allah, He runs towards you. So seek guidance as much as possible. Moving on to tip number 3, connecting with Allah. And there is multiple ways that you can connect with Allah. You can recite surahs. You can just read the Quran to yourself. You can establish all 5 prayers. And if you've already established all 5 prayers, perfect your prayers, right? I know it's a little bit difficult, especially when you're going through it at the peak of your pain, for someone to be like, hey, here, just listen to the surah, or listen to this recitation, or just here, read the actual Quran. It's a little bit difficult, especially when you're in so much pain. You just want to bawl out and cry. Well, guess what? Crying is a mercy from Allah. So you are human. You are allowed to cry. Crying does not mean that you don't have any faith. Crying doesn't mean that you're questioning the decree of Allah. Crying just means that you're human and that you are experiencing pain, and that's okay. Always remember, you are human. Okay, and your human attributes are to feel. And remember that Allah's mercy is with those that cry. I mean, imagine not being able to feel anything. I don't think you would be able to go through the test and gain Jannah if you didn't go through that. So start looking at that. No better way to connect with Allah than crying on your mat, on your salah mat. No better connection. Allah hears and sees everything. And watching you cry, I promise you, it's going to be at the top of His list. One great example of this connection with Allah and just letting it out is the example when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his son died. I think his son name was Ibrahim. And his son died, and he actually was crying. And someone asked him, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "I'm not crying because I don't have faith in the decree of Allah. I'm crying because of the separation. And I know I'm going to see him again, but I'm still going to miss him." Right? And if Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was crying, and he was the best of us, like the best, right, exactly. I think you answered your own question there. Remember, we are not the owners of the unseen. Allah knows what's best for us. Just turn to Him. He'll know what's best for you. He will guide you. Moving on to tip number 4, self-reflection. Guys, for me, this has got to be the top 3 qualities that I appreciate the most in people. Okay? Self-reflection is key to your success. Okay? So take the time to reflect on your experience and then learn from that experience. Learn from the impact that that's had in your life. Promise you, you will be a better person for it. Some places that work for me for reflection is going by the water or doing a walk, just a nature walk, period. I love going on nature walks. I don't know why, but when I'm either going on a nature walk or even sitting by the water, 9 times out of 10, number one, my mind is always clear, and number two, I always come back with like an epiphany, a different perspective, just like a light bulb goes off in your head. So promise you guys, self-reflection is key. Give this a try. Moving on to tip number 5, practicing gratitude. Guys, this tip couldn't be more on the nose. The more you focus on the good and the more you are thankful for the blessings that you can count and the blessings you cannot count, the more Allah is going to give you reward for it. All right? The less time you spend dwelling on the things that happened and the things that make you sad, right? The less time you spend there and the more time you spend here in the positive aspects of it all, as far as being gratitude, being full of thankfulness in your heart, the more Allah is going to bless you. And the quicker your healing journey can begin and the quicker your healing journey can go through. Now, of course, healing is not linear. It's not, you go through these 10 steps and boom, you're healed. That's not how it works. But you'll be a lot closer for it. And there are many ways you can practice gratitude. You can do it as simple as when you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes and boom, you immediately start saying in your head or out loud all the things that you're grateful for. This gets a little tricky if you are married and you're with someone, or if you're not, then hey, go for it and just say it out loud. But some people like privacy. Another way you can practice this is you can start journaling. Some people, I'm not going to mention any names, have journals for everything. And once you start dedicating 5 minutes a day, start with 2 minutes, build up to 5, build up to 10, and you start writing down the things that you're grateful for. I promise you're gonna have like a struggle for a minute as you figure out, especially the first day that you sit down, you're gonna just have a little bit of struggle there trying to come up with all the things that you should be grateful for. I promise you, after the first 10 seconds or even the whole minute, after that first minute of the first day, you will be filling up that page. Your alarm will be ringing and you will be like, wow, that was 5 minutes? Wow. Your attitude determines your altitude. Practice gratitude and you will be high up there. Tip number 6, and this is a big one. Guys, practicing kindness towards yourself and towards others. As the saying goes, like attracts like. And if you are being rude to others, you will 9 times out of 10 have the experience of others being rude to you. So how do you show up in the world? Well, it all starts with your internal dialogue. When you make a mistake, do you talk down on yourself? Do you tell yourself how stupid you are? Do you call yourself names? If you do, then this is a very big sign on how you're showing up in the world. The first step to do is shifting the perspective internally, the internal dialogue. That is the first step to change, right? And the more you become aware of this, the more you have control over your mental faculties. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, negative thoughts don't just appear out of nowhere, They have time to kind of fester in there. So the same thing goes when you're trying to shift your perspective. If your internal dialogue is not that kind to yourself, you need to change that. You need to start becoming aware of it. And that's the first step, really. You just become aware of it. And as soon as you become aware of it, you start catching yourself. Like, hold up, wait a minute. I made a mistake. It's not that big a deal. Like, I'm okay. The world is not over. You know what I mean? Start going about it in that way. Start treating yourself as if you were the 5-year-old version of yourself. How would you talk to your 5-year-old? Would you yell and scream at your 5-year-old for dropping the milk? Probably not. You'd probably be like, it's okay. I'll help you clean it up. Let's clean it up together. And you'll probably even sing a song on clean up, clean up. It can be fun. Point is, having kindness to yourself and to others is a huge step. And the first step is discovering how you talk to yourself, how your internal dialogue is. One great visual example of this, and I will try to link the video down in the description box, is a experiment, or like, yeah, it's like an experiment. Dr. Masaru Emoto, I forget his name, but he did a water experiment. And for X amount of time, he had, for example, 10 cups of water that he crystallized. And for X amount of time, he would take out each cup out every day and talk whatever internal dialogue he had put a sticker on. So he had one for negative talk, one for hate, one for love, one for compassion, one for joy, so on and so forth. And I'll link the video in the description box so you guys can see it visually, what that internal dialogue visually looks like. Okay, so the experiment was, for X amount of time, he would speak those things to each of those cups. So on the cup of love, he would speak loving things. I love you, I love you, I love you. And for the hate cup, he would say, I hate you, you're disgusting, or whatever. The point is, for an X amount of period of time, at the end of that experiment, and this was done all under a microscope, right? So this is where you can see the change, the molecular change, right? Because at the end of the day, guys, we are 70% water. Okay, so this is a very thing. Anyway, in the video, in the experiment, you are able to see in the magnifying glass that he shows you, right, how the water crystallized for hate, how the water crystallized for love, how the water crystallized for compassion, so on and so forth. So I will try to link that in the description box below so you guys can visually see what that internal kindness dialogue could look like and the impact it could potentially have in your life. It is a very important step. So I highly recommend you guys watching that video, of course, after you finish watching these steps. Tip number 7. This tip is actually so good for your heart, I promise you guys. And that is helping others. And there's multiple ways you can help others. You can volunteer your time at a soup kitchen, or you can just listen to your friends vent when they have something troubling them, right? But just helping others. Helping others is not only going to help other people, but it's going to help yourself in your healing and in your journey of healing and just rebuilding yourself. As you help others, something happens in your heart. Something is planted in your heart, and it's a very unexplained thing. You just have to trust me and go do it. And honestly, it is one of the acts of worship, helping those in need. So no better excuse to like get off your butt and go help someone else than to heal, right? So let's get to it. Tip number 8. Positive influence. Guys, it is so important for you guys to surround yourself with positive influence, those people that inspire you to just be a better version of yourself and to get on the horse of healing. You know what I mean? Always remember to try not to self-isolate, okay? Self-isolation, it is definitely Shaitan playing tricks on you and probably telling you that you're worthless and that all these things that Shaitan just whispers, right? He tries to self-isolate you. Always remember, the way that you kick that off is by surrounding yourself with positive people, positive influence. If you need to go out for tea with your friends, even if you don't feel like it, even if you're so sad, just go. There's a difference between self-isolation and time alone to reflect. Distinguish between the two and act accordingly. Tip number 9. This one is going to be a little bit tough, but acceptance. Practice acceptance of the loss and the tragedy. The faster you can accept it, the less time that you'll spend dwelling on it. And if you find yourself being overwhelmed by the negative thoughts or the wasa wasa, just turn your head to the left and say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and you spit 3 times. And now you have the protection of Allah. Now you can refocus and guide that energy to where it's supposed to be. AKA making you feel better, AKA rebuilding yourself. Acceptance is always easier said than done. I know this for a fact and from a personal experience, I promise you guys, but the more you keep practicing it, the better you'll get at it. It's not going to just get better overnight, but the more you do it, the better you'll be at it. And our last tip, tip number 10, is trusting in Allah. Trust in Allah and always believe that He has your best intentions at heart. Allah is always there for you to guide you through this healing journey. All you have to do is put your trust in Him. When we go through an overwhelming amount of pain, just know that you're not alone. And always remember, Allah does not like to burden you. Allah does not give more to any soul, more than what that soul can bear. This is merely a test to distinguish between those who say they are believers and those who actually are. Guys, remember, healing is not linear. It is crazy. It can go from step 5 to step 1 to step 9 to step 10. I mean, it can just go all over the place. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a diagram of how a woman thinks versus how a man thinks. Man thinks from point A to point B, and that's it. A woman thinks from point A to point Z to point W to point X to maybe point B. And that's how the healing journey is. It literally takes you all over the place, and it will take all of you to actually put yourself back together. But if you start practicing these 10 tips, I promise you, you will be so much better and you will be that much further ahead in your journey of healing. Trust in Allah and just do the things that you need to do. The more you trust in Allah, the more you come to Allah with your problems, the more answers He will give you, the more guidance He will give you, and the better you'll be for it. You guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and hit the like. And if you have any topics that you would want me to cover, feel free to leave that in the comments down below. Until then, see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum.